Sorry, I got cut off there. I ran out of memory space on my device here that I'm recording on. So, what I was going to say is on page 426, there are several possible explanations for the finding that we see in the Mandarin language study. The first one is that the infants, when speaking with a live person, were just better able to pay attention. They just enjoyed it more, they found it more engaging, and they just the researchers found evidence that the infants they looked more, their eye gaze was focused on the speaker more in the live condition than it was on the TV condition. The second explanation, the second possibility, is that babies were just able to pull more information out of the speech stream when they were interacting with the speaker. There are pieces of information, as you know, being online learners, that are available in person that you don't get over a recording, an audio recording, or even a visual recording. These are referential and contextual cues that sort of communicate things beyond just the language itself. When I was reading this paragraph, I thought one of the possible ways that they could improve this study and that would allow them to control for this referential information, for these missing cues out of the speech stream, would be to allow the infant and the adult to interact live via a video camera. So instead of just having pre-recorded sessions, these Mandarin speaking adults would interact with the babies. They would be in separate rooms, but they would interact with the babies over live monitors, which would allow them to place back into the conversation certain contextual cues and referential cues and interactions, the kinds of things that are missing from a pre-recorded lecture. But in any case, they didn't do that, and they could do that, and I think that would allow us to discover how much of the effect that they found in Figure 11.1 is due to the first point there on page 426, that the live speaker caused the babies to pay more attention, versus how much was due to the loss of referential cues. That would allow them to control for that. Basically, the point there is your babies are going to learn more from you as a parent than they're going to learn from Sesame Street. The third point on page 426 is that infants learn more from an adult who has adopted a pedagogical stance. Now, this probably isn't really that relevant to the Mandarin study. It doesn't appear that there's any reason why the Mandarin speaker in the TV condition would have adopted, or in the live condition would have adopted a pedagogical stance, whereas the Mandarin speaker in the TV recording would not have adopted a pedagogical stance. But what we're talking about here is when a person is trying to communicate something, trying to teach something, they adopt a certain tone of voice, certain behaviors, certain facial expressions that demonstrate an intent to communicate information. And essentially, we could call this, if we wanted to simplify it, we could call it teacher mode. My wife, in fact, actually accuses me of this all the time when I try to share with her some psychological information, something that I know that might help us in a given situation. She says that I've gone into teacher mode, and teacher mode is the same thing as a pedagogical stance. It's the things we do that try to indicate, I am teaching you something important here, pay attention. Box 11.1 suggests that some of these factors are at play in social learning among birds. Specifically, birds are unable to learn their native song, like the song of their species, if they are not exposed to adults in person. In much the same way that the infants exposed to TV or audio only were unable to learn the difference in the aspirated sounds in Mandarin, these birds are unable to learn the differences in their songs if it's just piped into the room where they're living. So that suggests that, and I guess a further study suggested that if these birds are placed into enclosures with male adults only and not female adults, that these adolescents won't learn their native birdsong from the male adults, and so that further suggests that social gating can be an interactive process. It's not just an adult teaching a child, but it's also the child's willingness to learn from an adult. So I guess this just suggests that these kinds of principles that are at play in infants who are learning information is not just restricted to human adults, but we can see it across a variety of species, and that these are general principles of teaching and learning, and not just specific to language.